There is something quietly strange that you may have felt before. When you lie beneath the night sky gazing up at the shimmering stars, they seem still unmoving, distant, and perhaps even indifferent. And yet deep within your mind is not truly at rest. Thoughts continue to drift, unnamed feelings gently stir as if another universe is in motion right inside you. From the perspective of Carl Gustav Jung, the human mind is neither simple nor orderly as we often imagine. It resembles that night sky, vast, mysterious, and filled with strange stars yet to be discovered. And just like in the cosmos, not every star is ordinary. Some pulse like a beating heart. Some have already died, yet still send out signals, and some are young, yet carry within them the memory of collisions and transformation. Tonight, we will enter a very different kind of journey, not to learn, not to remember, but to let go. You will be guided through some of the most curious and gentle truths about rare stars in the universe, and at the same time, through soft metaphors for your own inner world. Each star, each phenomenon, reflects a fragment of the unconscious, a place that Jung believed we often forget, yet quietly long to understand. You do not need to understand everything. Just listen, and allow your mind to slow, as if drifting in the stillness of space. Welcome to Stories for Sleep, a place where stories are not only told but felt, so you may gently sink into a deeper, more peaceful sleep. If you would like each night to hold a journey like this, remember to subscribe and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next stories. And now, take a slow breath, relax your body. We begin. Part 1. The Unusual Stars. As we begin tonight's journey, perhaps the first thing to gently accept is a very subtle truth. Not everything in the universe is normal in the way we once believed. And in much the same way, not everything within your own mind needs to be neat, easy to understand, or arranged in a clear order. You may be used to thinking of stars as distant points of light, stable, and governed by precise physical laws. But reality is different. There are stars that pulse like a living heart. Stars that spin so rapidly they begin to tear themselves apart, flinging matter into space. And there are stars that are no longer stars at all, only remnants left behind after a violent ending. If you listen slowly, these images are not just astronomy, they are symbols. And in Jung's view, symbols are the deepest language of the unconscious. Imagine a star that pulses like a heart, not a lifeless mechanical motion, but a rhythm contracting, expanding, brightening, then softening again. It echoes something very familiar, perhaps the rhythm of your own heartbeat as you lie in silence, or the movement of emotions you sometimes cannot quite name. Moments when you feel slightly unsettled or a little empty, or even peaceful in a way you cannot explain. Within, we also pulse like this. There are days when you feel full of energy, clear and luminous. But there are also days when you withdraw, feel uncertain, and struggle to understand yourself. And like those variable stars, this does not mean something is wrong with you. It simply means you are alive. Jung once suggested that the human soul is not a machine that must be repaired into perfect function. It is more like an ecosystem, alive, shifting, and at times contradictory. And just like the universe, it is often these irregularities that carry the deepest meaning. Now consider the stars that spin at incredible speed, so fast that they can no longer hold their familiar spherical shape. They flatten, stretch, and begin to cast parts of themselves into the surrounding space. A part of them no longer belongs to them. There is something deeply human in this image. Have you ever felt as though you were spinning too fast in life? Thoughts racing endlessly. Responsibilities, expectations, all the things you must do, pulling you beyond your natural balance. And then you begin to scatter parts of yourself, perhaps your energy, perhaps your attention, perhaps emotions you do not have time to understand or hold. You react more quickly than you wish. You grow tired in ways that are hard to name. But from Jung's perspective, this is not failure. It is a sign of a system trying to adapt. Like those rapidly spinning stars, they are not wrong. They are simply in an extreme state of existence. And it is often in such extremes that the universe becomes most fascinating. Perhaps there are parts within you like this as well. Parts that are not standard, not stable, not easy to understand. And rather than rejecting them, Jung might gently invite you to do the opposite, to listen, not to analyze, not to fix, simply to recognize, this too is me. And then there are stars that are no longer stars at all. They are remnants, dense cores objects that have passed through such a powerful ending that their original form no longer exists. And yet, strangely, they do not disappear. They remain, sometimes carrying even more extreme qualities than before. This touches a very deep layer of human psychology, because within each of us there are also such remnants, old memories, past experiences, versions of yourself that you are no longer, yet still leave traces behind. You may not be the person you were years ago, but some part of that person and still lives within you. Sometimes they appear in dreams, sometimes in sudden reactions, sometimes in feelings whose origins you cannot explain. Jung called these parts of the unconscious not gone, only transformed. And just like in the cosmos, these remnants are not something to erase. They are evidence that something once lived, once burned brightly, once mattered. There is a great gentleness in beginning to see things this way, that not everything needs to be perfect. Not every part of you needs to be correct. Not every state must be stable, because the universe is not like that. It is full of exceptions, things that do not follow common rules, phenomena that are strange, difficult to understand, even seemingly contradictory. And yet these are precisely what give it its beauty, a beauty born not from simplicity, but from richness. And if you allow yourself to feel this, you may begin to see yourself a little differently. Instead of trying to become a normal star, you may gently accept that you are part of a far more complex universe, that having unstable days does not make you wrong, that having conflicting thoughts does not make you weak, that carrying the remnants of your past does not make you incomplete. On the contrary, it makes you human. And perhaps just as when you look up at the night sky, you do not need to understand every star to feel at peace. You only need to know they are there, and so are you. Right now, as you lie there listening to these words, there may still be movement within you, thoughts not fully settled, feelings that linger. That is all right. You do not need to force yourself into stillness. Let your mind be like the universe, a little wider, a little softer, allowing everything to exist as it is. There are stars within you that are pulsing. There are parts that are spinning fast. There are remnants quietly present, and all of it belongs to you. When you stop resisting them, something very gentle begins to happen. You begin to slow down. Not because everything disappears, but because you no longer need to control everything. And in that space, like between distant, unfamiliar stars, a deeper quiet begins to emerge. Very soft, very slow, but enough for you to drift into sleep. And as that slowing continues to unfold, you may notice something even subtler, that what is unusual is not something to be removed, but something to be understood more gently. In our familiar way of thinking, normal often feels safe, a stable orbit, a steady rhythm, a predictable state. But the universe, if you look closely, does not operate that way. It is not built like a perfect clock, but more like a long piece of music, with soft passages, unexpected turns, imperfect notes, and silences that arrive without warning. And within those imperfections, another kind of beauty appears. Return for a moment to the image of a pulsing star. There is something deeply familiar here, isn't there? A rhythm not perfectly even yet alive. It reminds us that life is not a straight line, but a series of oscillations. Strong then soft, bright then dim, clear then uncertain. If you have ever tried to control everything in your life, your thoughts, your feelings, your reactions, you may have noticed that the more you try, the more tension arises. As if you were trying to force a star to stop pulsing, just to become stable. But that is not life. According to Jung, true psychological life begins when we allow inner movements to unfold, rather than forcing them into rigid forms. He did not see inner fluctuations as problems to be fixed, but as signals, whispers from a deeper layer of ourselves. So if there are rhythms within you that feel uneven, perhaps they are not as frightening as they seem. Perhaps they are simply parts of a melody you have not yet fully heard. And when we think of stars spinning at extreme speed so fast they begin to distort, we encounter another aspect of the human experience. The feeling of being stretched between too many forces, as though you are trying to keep everything in orbit while life itself moves faster than your ability to balance it. There are days when your mind does not stop. It leaps from one thought to another, from one worry to the next. You try to keep up, but the more you follow, the further you feel from yourself. In those moments, it may feel as though you are losing a part of yourself, but from the perspective of the universe, this is not loss, but dispersion, a rearrangement of energy you have not yet had time to understand. Those rapidly spinning stars, even as they distort, still exist. They do not vanish. They simply take on a new form, one that from a distance may be even more beautiful, more unusual, more astonishing. Perhaps something similar is happening within you. Parts of you are changing shape. Parts that are no longer what they once were. And while this may feel unsettling, it may also be a sign that you are transforming, not in a loud way, but in a quiet, subtle way, like a star, rewriting itself. And then we return to the remnants, what remains when a star is no longer what it once was. This may be the image that touches human experience most deeply, because each of us has passed through endings, changes, older versions of ourselves we had to leave behind. And yet what we often forget is that nothing truly disappears. A memory may fade, but the feeling it once carried still lingers somewhere. A person you once were may no longer be clearly present, but their imprint remains in how you see the world, in how you respond, in what you choose or avoid. Jung called these contents of the unconscious parts of the psyche, no longer in conscious awareness, yet still quietly influencing you. And like stellar remnants, they are not meaningless. On the contrary, they carry history depth and a very particular kind of energy. Perhaps you have tried to forget something, tried not to think about it, tried to become a completely new version of yourself. But sometimes the parts you try to forget are the ones that most need to be heard, not to return to the past, but to understand what you have lived through. And when you begin to look at those remnants with gentler eyes, they no longer feel frightening. They become pieces, traces of a journey, witnesses to the fact that you have lived, felt, and changed. Just like the universe, where the death of a star is not an ending, but the beginning of another form of existence. Perhaps if you allow yourself to think in this way, you may begin to feel a little lighter, not because everything becomes simple, but because you no longer need to make everything simple. You can exist as a complex system. You can hold contradictions. You can be both strong and fragile, both clear and uncertain. And all of that is all right. In truth, it is more than all right. It is the nature of life itself. The universe does not try to become easy to understand for our comfort. It exists as it is vast, mysterious, and sometimes beyond every framework we create. And perhaps your mind is the same. You do not need to explain every thought. You do not need to control every feeling. You do not need to understand every part of yourself right away. Sometimes it is enough to simply be there, to observe and to allow. Just as when you look at the night sky, you do not need to know the name of every star to feel that something deep is happening within you. You only need to look and feel. And now, as you lie there, your body softening, your breath slowing, you may begin to notice a very gentle shift. Not a dramatic change, just a feeling, as though there is more space within you. Space for thoughts to pass without holding on. Space for emotions to come and go, like stars appearing and fading in the night. You do not need to cling to them, nor do you need to push them away. Just let them exist. And in that space, something very natural begins to happen. Your mind softens, not because you force it to be still, but because you have stopped resisting it, like the universe, where every movement, no matter how strange, has its place. So do you. You do not need to become any version of normal to deserve rest. You are already enough, even with the parts you do not yet understand, even with the parts still in motion, even with the strange stars within you. And as you accept that, a deeper quiet begins to open, not emptiness, but a stillness with depth, like drifting through space, no noise, no pressure, only a vastness, gently holding you from all sides. There is nothing more you need to do, no need to try to fall asleep. Just remain here a little longer. Listen to your breath. Feel your body growing heavier, softer, and if thoughts remain, let them become distant stars, moving farther away, slower and slower, until they are only faint points of light, dissolving into the night. You do not need to hold on to them. Tonight, you can rest in an imperfect universe, yet one vast enough to hold everything. And within you, there is such a space as well, wide, quiet, gentle. Just drift into it, little by little. No hurry, no need to understand. Just sleep. Part 2. Dead Stars. Extreme Remnants. As we continue our slow journey across the night sky, there is a truth that at first may make you pause, that the death of a star, something that seems like an absolute ending, is not truly an end at all. On the contrary, it is precisely in that moment of ending that the universe gives rise to some of the strangest, most extreme, and most powerful forms of existence we know. Perhaps as you lie quietly now, you can sense something very familiar. We tend to fear endings. We fear loss. We fear things no longer being as they once were. But if you look more deeply, as Carl Gustav Jung once gently suggested, an ending is not always disappearance. Sometimes it is a compression, a transformation, another way of existing, more condensed, more intense, and also more mysterious. Imagine a star that has lived a very long life. It has burned brightly radiated warmth and held its surrounding planets in balance for millions, even billions of years. But when its fuel begins to run out, it does not simply fade away. Instead, it collapses, becoming smaller, denser, until only an incredibly compact core remains, a neutron star. An object no larger than a city, yet so heavy it defies imagination. A single spoonful of its matter could weigh billions of tons, a compression taken to its extreme, as though the entire history of that star, all its energy, pressure, and time, has been condensed into a very small space. There is something in this image that touches a deep layer of human experience, because within each of us, there are also such stars, experiences that have passed, emotions that were once immense, periods of life that once filled your entire inner world. But over time, They no longer expand outward as they once did. They contract, they settle, and they become dense cores within your psyche. You may not think of them every day, but they are still there, quiet, weighty, and sometimes deeply influential in how you experience the world. An old memory may no longer be clear, but the feeling it left behind, warmth or hurt, still exists like a kind of inner gravity. It pulls you in certain directions, shaping your choices, your reactions, the things you avoid or seek. Jung described such parts as contents compressed into the unconscious, not because they are unimportant, but because they are too powerful, too deep, to remain constantly in conscious awareness. Like a neutron star, no longer radiant, yet holding immense density of being. And then, from these dense cores, the universe creates phenomena even more unusual. Some neutron stars begin to spin. Not just spin, but rotate with such speed and precision that they emit signals like a cosmic clock. These are called pulsars. Imagine, in the stillness of space, a small dense object turning and sending out perfectly regular pulses like a mechanical heartbeat. No deviation, no error. So precise it seems almost flawless. There is something both strange and beautiful, and perhaps a little sad in this image. Because when something becomes too precise, too regular, it can begin to drift away from life. In the human world, we are often taught that stability, control, and consistency are ideals to strive for. But if everything becomes too perfect, too unchanging, what happens to the soft, flexible living parts within us? Perhaps at times you have become a kind of pulsar in your own way. You keep everything on schedule. You do what must be done. You respond in familiar patterns. You maintain a steady rhythm until there is little room left for spontaneity. And while that may bring a sense of safety, it may also leave you feeling slightly distant from yourself. Jung did not reject order, but he often reminded us that true life exists in the balance between order and chaos, between what is known and unknown, between control and surrender. So if there are parts of you that function like a clock, you do not need to break them. Simply remember gently, you are not only those steady pulses, you are also the spaces between them. You are also the unpredictable movements. You are also life itself. And then there are neutron stars that go even further, becoming magnetars. Objects with magnetic fields so powerful they surpass anything on Earth. An invisible force, yet immensely strong, capable of distorting the space around it, influencing everything within its reach. If you listen to this image symbolically, you may recognize that within each person, there are also such fields. Invisible forces, yet powerful. Perhaps a deep belief, perhaps an unnamed fear, perhaps a quiet longing. Things that are not always visible, but shape how you draw the world toward you. You may not realize that you are seeing everything through a certain field, but it is there. It shapes how you perceive others, how you understand yourself, how you respond to what happens. And like a magnetar, these inner fields can be very strong, sometimes so strong that change feels difficult, as if an unseen force keeps you in a familiar orbit. But Jung would not say you must remove these forces. He would invite you to notice them. Because when you notice, a small distance appears, and within that distance, there is freedom. Not the freedom to become someone entirely different, but the freedom to not be entirely governed by what you do not yet understand. And as you gently observe the dense cores, the rotations, the fields within you, something very subtle begins to happen. You start to see that all of them come from a process. Nothing appears by chance. A neutron star does not simply exist. A pulsar does not spin without cause. A magnetar does not become powerful without a history. All are the result of a long journey, of a star that once lived, burned, and transformed. And so are you. Everything within you, whether clear or confusing, is the result of what you have lived through. Not to trap you in the past, but to remind you that you have depth. A depth that does not need immediate explanation. A depth that can be felt slowly. And perhaps, when you begin to see things this way, you will no longer fear the extreme parts within yourself. You will not see them as problems, but as signs. Signs that your inner world is rich. Signs that you have lived deeply. Signs that you are not a simple system. And that is something beautiful. Now, as you lie there, your body sinking further into rest, you may begin to sense another kind of stillness. Not an empty stillness, but a stillness with depth. Like a neutron star, small yet heavy. Like a pulsar, steady yet not lifeless. Like a magnetar, invisible yet powerful. These images are no longer far away. They are reflecting something within you. And as you stop trying to change them, stop trying to understand them all at once, they begin to soften. Not because they weaken, but because you are no longer resisting them. And in that space, you can rest. You do not need to become completely light. You do not need to be empty, just quiet enough, so that the dense cores no longer feel heavy, so that the rotations no longer feel tense, so that the fields are no longer unseen. Everything is still there, but you have shifted. You are now in a space that is wider, softer, and deeper, like the universe after a star's death, not silent in emptiness, but full of new forms of existence. And in that vastness, you can let go a little more. Your breath slows, your body grows heavier, your mind no longer needs to do anything, just drift gently in a universe where even death is a form of continuation. And you are continuing too, very softly, very slowly, and very peacefully. And as you continue drifting through that quiet space, you may begin to sense something even subtler, that what is extreme is not something to avoid. Sometimes the most compressed, most intense states are where the deepest meanings of existence are held. Return again to the image of a neutron star, a small object carrying an almost unimaginable density. If you could stand beside it, though that is impossible, you would not see a radiant glow like an ordinary star. No soft light spreading outward, no familiar beauty, only a presence, intensely condensed. And perhaps within your own mind, there are such points of condensation, experiences you no longer tell, emotions you no longer express, memories that do not often appear, but when they do, they carry a weight difficult to explain. They may not be large in appearance, but in feeling, they can be very deep, like a neutron star not occupying much space yet holding immense gravity. You may have wondered why certain small things seem to affect you for so long. A passing remark, a quiet moment, a glance, a seemingly insignificant decision. But in Jung's view, these are not random. They touch deeper parts of you, places that already carry an inner weight. And when the two meet, they leave an imprint, not on the surface, but in depth. And that depth does not need immediate explanation. You do not need to revisit every memory. You do not need to understand every feeling. Just know what you carry is not meaningless weight. It is something that has been compressed so that you could continue forward. Like the universe, which does not keep everything expanded forever, but allows things to contract, transform, and exist in new forms. And when you think of pulsars, those steady, precise rotations, you may begin to see another layer of meaning. Within that regularity, there is persistence, a way of existing that does not need to be loud, does not need constant change, only to continue. There may have been periods in your life when everything seemed repetitive. Days that felt the same, familiar routines, thoughts circling again and again. And sometimes you may have felt stuck. But from the universe's perspective, perhaps that is not being stuck. It is a rhythm, a cycle, a way your inner system is keeping everything from collapsing. Not every movement must be new. Not every change must be visible. Sometimes repetition is how you stabilize yourself, like a pulsar not needing to change to have value. Its very steadiness is what makes it remarkable. And if you are in such a phase where things feel slow, repetitive, perhaps you do not need to rush away from it. Perhaps you can gently remain a little longer, listening to your own rhythm, not to analyze, just to notice. You are still continuing. And that is enough. Then when you think of Magnetar's powerful invisible fields, you touch an even deeper layer of human experience. Because not everything that influences you can be seen. There are forces without form, without sound, without clear names. Yet, they shape how you live. A belief that you must always be strong. A feeling that you should not trouble others. A thought that you must control everything to feel safe. These are not always spoken, but they exist as fields within your mind. And like Magnetars, they can be very strong, not to harm you, but because they were formed through important experiences. Perhaps at some point holding such a belief helped you endure something, helped you adapt, helped you survive. But over time, those forces may remain, even when you no longer need them. And this is where Jung gently invites you not to break them, but to notice them. Because once you recognize this is a force influencing me, you are no longer completely carried by it. A small distance appears, and within that distance, there is choice. Not always easy, not always clear, but even a little distance brings a little freedom. And as you lie there between waking and sleep, you may begin to feel these fields differently, no longer as invisible, frightening forces, but as gentle movements, slowly softening. Not because they disappear, but because you are no longer resisting them. You simply observe, like watching a distant region of space where powerful forces exist, yet no longer directly affect you. And in that observation, there is a deep peace. Not a peace because everything is perfect, but a peace because you no longer need everything to be perfect. You allow everything to be as it is. The compressed parts, the steady rhythms, the invisible forces, all have their place, and you do not need to remove any part to rest. Perhaps this is the gentlest truth you can carry into sleep tonight. You do not need to become completely light in order to rest. You only need to feel safe enough to let go, to release control, to release the need to understand, to release the need to become a better version immediately. Just be yourself, with everything that is present. And as you allow that, your body will naturally move into rest. Your breath slows without effort. Your muscles soften without thought. Your mind holds less tightly to each passing idea. The images of neutron stars, pulsars, magnetars fade into the background of quiet. You do not need to hold them. They can drift away, like distant points of light, dissolving into space. And you drift too, not going anywhere, just going deeper within, where there is no need for explanation, no need for definition. No need for effort, only a very gentle presence, very deep, very still, like the universe after a great event, not loud, not chaotic, but opening into a new space, a space wide enough for everything to settle. And in that space, you can rest, truly rest, not because every question has been answered, But because you no longer need to ask, just remain there, in gentleness, in acceptance, in a universe where even the most powerful things eventually become quiet, and you as well, slowing a little more, softening a little more, until everything becomes only a faint sensation and dissolves into sleep. Part 3: Stars that do not follow age. As we continue drifting gently through the night sky, there is an image so subtle that it may feel both unfamiliar and strangely familiar at the same time. These are stars that do not follow age, the blue stragglers, the blue wanderers, appearing within ancient star clusters, yet looking younger, brighter, and somehow out of place. If you imagine a star cluster as a community where all stars are born at roughly the same time, growing and evolving together, then the presence of a young star among much older ones would make you pause. It does not fit the shared story. It breaks expectation. It raises a very quiet, yet very deep question. Does time truly move the same way for everything? And if you listen to this question not only with your mind, but with a slower, deeper feeling, you may begin to sense that this is not only true of the universe, it is also true of human beings. From Jung's perspective, the psyche does not develop along a simple straight line. Growing older does not mean every part of you matures in the same way. Not every part of you shares the same age. There are parts of you that are very old, carrying memory, experience, and deep understanding. But there are also parts that remain very young, very alive, very sensitive. And sometimes both exist within the same person. Like a blue straggler, a young star, within an old cluster. You may have felt this before, without naming it. There are moments when you feel very mature, understanding things clearly, seeing the world with calm depth. And then, in another moment, you feel very young, easily touched, easily moved, drawn into emotions you thought had long passed, and this can feel confusing. You may ask yourself, who am I really? Why have I come so far? Yet parts of me remain unchanged. But from the universe's perspective, this is not a contradiction to resolve. It is a natural way of being, because blue stragglers are not wrong. They do not break the laws. They simply reveal that the laws are more complex than we thought. These stars may become young again in two ways. One is through collision and merging. Two stars, instead of continuing separately, meet, combine, and become something new, brighter, younger, different. There is something deeply human in this image, because in life, there are encounters like this. You meet a person, an experience, a relationship, and it does not simply add to your life, it transforms you. Not gradually, but through merging. You are no longer who you were before. You carry within you a part of something else, a new perspective, a new feeling, a new understanding of yourself. And sometimes, this makes you feel younger. Not younger in age, but younger in sensation. You may feel more curious again, more sensitive, more alive, as though something within you has been awakened. But it may also make you feel more fragile, because when you open, you can also be touched more easily, and that is something many try to avoid. But in Jung's view, these collisions are part of what he called individuation, the process of becoming yourself, not by staying the same, but by transforming. Not every change is comfortable, not every merging is gentle, but they bring depth. Like a blue straggler, not simply young, but the result of a complex history. And then there is another way these stars appear young, by drawing matter from a companion star. A quieter process, not a dramatic collision, but a gradual exchange, almost unnoticed. One star slowly receives energy from another and continues to burn longer, younger than expected. If you listen inwardly, you may recognize similar patterns in life, relationships that nourish you, connections that sustain your light, even when you thought you were fading. But also the opposite, moments where you give too much, where your energy is quietly drained without immediate awareness. And like in the universe, these processes are not always obvious. They unfold slowly, subtly. Only over time do you begin to feel the change. Jung did not see relationships as mere connections between individuals. He saw them as spaces where unconscious parts meet, exchange influence, and transform one another. So when you feel different after a relationship, there is nothing strange about that. You have undergone a process like a star. You have received, given, changed, and perhaps become younger in some way, not returning to the past, but opening to a new possibility. And when you look at all of this together, a gentle realization begins to form. Age does not always reflect history. Not everything develops in a straight line. You do not have to be what others expect at your age. You may carry very old parts and very young parts at the same time. You may have lived through much and still have things that have not yet begun. You may feel the universe does not ask stars to behave according to their age. It allows them to be strange, to deviate from expectation, to simply be themselves. And perhaps you can do the same. You do not need to force yourself into a correct version. You do not need to compare your journey with others. Just listen. Which part of you needs to live? Which part needs to rest? Which part is ready to open again? And as you do this, a lightness begins to emerge. Not certainty, but permission. Permission to be inconsistent. Permission to have parts that do not fully align. Permission to change. And as you lie there in the quiet of the night, you may begin to feel this, not as a thought, but as a sensation, a softening. A sense that you no longer need to hold everything together. You do not need to hold your image, your pace, your story of how you should be. You can let go, like a star that does not need to prove. It belongs to a cluster. It simply exists. And as you allow yourself to exist like this, everything begins to slow. Your breath a little deeper, your body a little heavier, your mind a little wider. Thoughts of time, of past, of future gently fade. Not because they are unimportant, but because you do not need to hold them now. Tonight, you do not need to understand your entire journey. You do not need to know where you are on life's path. You do not need to explain why parts of you feel young or old. You only need to be here, in this moment, where everything is allowed to exist without needing to fit. And in that space, something very gentle appears. You are not late. You are not misplaced. You are not wrong. You are simply yourself, like a blue straggler, quietly shining in its own way. No need to explain, no need to prove. Just shine, softly, calmly, and slowly drift into sleep. And as you remain in that gentle stillness, a quiet thought may pass. If stars can hold many ages at once, perhaps you do not need to reduce yourself to a single definition. You do not have to choose between mature or immature, strong or fragile. Perhaps you can be all of these at different times in different ways, like a blue straggler, not denying the past of its cluster, yet not confined by it. A quiet reminder that history does not always show itself on the surface. Some stories are rewritten from within, and within you, there are such stories too. Parts unseen by others, movements only you can feel, changes that happen silently, yet deeply. Perhaps you have changed in ways no one noticed. No clear turning point, no marked moment. Just one day you realized you no longer react the same, no longer think the same, no longer feel the same, yet you cannot say exactly when it happened. That is how many blue stragglers within you are formed, not through dramatic events, but through small accumulations, moments when you chose silence instead of reaction, moments when you listened instead of avoided, moments when you stayed with a feeling instead of running away. Little by little, you changed, and when you look back, you see yourself as different, but without knowing exactly when. Jung believed the deepest growth does not occur through external milestones, but through inner movements, movements that may have no clear words, no clear images, only a quiet sense that something has been lived through. And that is enough. You do not need to retell your entire journey for it to have meaning. You do not need to prove you have grown correctly. There is no single way to grow, just as there is no single path for stars. And as you allow yourself to see this, a subtle ease appears. You no longer need to compare yourself to others, no longer need to wonder why others seem faster, more stable, more certain. You begin to see that every journey has its own logic, a logic that does not need to match anyone else, a logic written through your own experience. And within that logic, the young parts of you are not signs of immaturity, they are signs of life, parts that can still feel, still be moved, still be surprised by small things. These are not things to outgrow, they are things to keep. Because if every part of you became old, completely certain, stable, unchanging, perhaps you would no longer feel much at all. No curiosity, no wonder, no openness. And that is not peace. That is stillness without life. So, if there are still young parts within you, let them remain. No need to force them to grow immediately. Just let them exist, gently, without judgment, without pressure. And as you think of stars becoming young again through collision, you may begin to see the collisions in your own life differently. Not all collisions are gentle. Some bring pain. Some disorient you. Some change you in ways you did not choose. But sometimes, these very collisions create new energy. Not immediately, not clearly, but over time, you may notice that from a difficult experience, something has grown a deeper understanding, a sensitivity, an ability to see what you once overlooked. Like two stars merging, no longer separate, but becoming something new. You are no longer who you were before, but you have not been lost. You have become something more layered. And perhaps if you look back with gentler eyes, you will see that these collisions were not only things that happened to you, they were part of how you were shaped. Not to hold on to forever, but to understand your depth. And when you think of stars drawing matter from others, you may begin to see that in life we are never entirely independent. We influence one another. You may carry someone's words within you, a perspective you learned, a feeling you once shared, still lingering. We absorb, we exchange, we transform through connection. And this does not make you less authentic. It makes you human, a person formed through many layers of influence. And when you realize this, a great pressure begins to soften. The pressure to become completely independent. You do not need to separate yourself from all influence to be real. You can be a blending, a weaving, a story written through many voices, many experiences, many moments. And all of that is still you. No need to be perfectly unified. No need to be simple, just true. And as you lie there in the deepening quiet, you may feel something very light. You do not need to explain yourself. You do not need to define your stage in life. You do not need to know whether you are mature enough. You can rest as you are, with all the old and young parts coexisting. No need to rearrange, no need to fix, just accept. And as you accept, your body will naturally soften. Small tensions dissolve. Repeating thoughts slow down, not because you force them to stop, but because you no longer need to hold them. You can let everything drift, like stars within a cluster, each moving in its own orbit, not perfectly aligned yet sharing the same space. So can you. You do not need to be perfect to rest. You only need to allow yourself to be in this moment. And as you do, a deeper quiet opens. Not emptiness, but a wide space, where every part of you has a place. Nothing pushed away, nothing held too tightly, simply there. And within that space, you can let go a little more. Your breath slower, your body heavier, your mind lighter. The images of age-defying stars dissolve. No longer concepts, only a faint feeling that nothing needs to fit a mold to be beautiful, that you do not need to be like anyone else to be whole, that your journey, even in its difference, has meaning. And with that feeling, you can drift. No goal, no direction, just into quiet, softly, deeply, gently, until everything fades into sleep. Part 4. Unstable and erupting stars. As you drift deeper into the quiet space of the night, you may encounter an image that feels both intense and strangely gentle in a way that is difficult to name. These are unstable stars, stars that do not burn with steady light, but sometimes flare, suddenly shining so brightly, it seems as though they are ending, and yet they do not die. They are called luminous blue variables, beings that exist in constant change, unpredictable, never fully stable. If you listen to this image slowly, you may begin to recognize that within you there are also such stars. There are times when you feel calm, but there are also moments when something within you suddenly rises. A strong emotion, an intense thought, a state you were not prepared for. And in that moment, it may feel as though you are erupting, not in a negative sense, but in the sense of too much feeling, too much energy, too many things at once. And sometimes, this can make you uneasy. You may wonder, is something wrong? Why am I like this? But if you look through the lens of Carl Gustav Jung, these eruptions are not signs of collapse. They are moments when a deeper part of you is trying to emerge, not always gently, not always clearly, but always meaningfully. Jung believed that within each person there are unconscious contents, parts not yet recognized, not yet fully lived. And sometimes, when these parts have gathered for long enough, they can no longer remain silent. They need to express themselves, and so they erupt, like a star that can no longer contain its energy and must release it outward. But here is the gentle truth: these stars do not die. They flare, then settle, they change, then continue to exist. And this carries a quiet meaning. Not every eruption is an ending. There are moments that feel overwhelming, yet they do not destroy you. They simply change you. Perhaps you have lived through such moments, a feeling rising so strongly you did not know what to do with it. A day when everything felt too much. A moment when you felt no longer in control as before. And yet, you are still here. You continued. Not exactly the same as before, but not broken either. Just slightly different. And perhaps in those moments something new opened. A new understanding of yourself, a deeper sensitivity, a truth you were not yet ready to face before. Like the intense light of a flaring star, it does not last forever, but it illuminates a space that was once dark. And then there is an even subtler phenomenon: the supernova imposters. Explosions that look like supernovae, bright, violent, seemingly final, yet the star survives. A kind of false death, a performance of ending that is not truly an end. If you stay with this image for a moment, you may recognize something similar within your inner life. Moments when it feels like a part of you has ended, a belief collapses, an image of yourself no longer holds, a relationship changes, and in that moment, you may feel as though you are losing a part of yourself. But over time, you realize you are still here. That part may no longer be what it was, but you continue. Not a full return, but a new form of being. Jung described such processes as ego deaths, moments when the old self is no longer adequate and must transform. But this does not mean you disappear. It means you are changing, and transformation is not always gentle. It may feel like an explosion, but not to destroy, to open a new space, a new way of seeing, a new version of yourself you had not yet known. And if you look back at the eruptions in your life, you may begin to notice a pattern. That after each moment that felt like an ending, there was always a continuation, not the same as before, but just as real. And when you begin to see this, a deep fear may start to soften. The fear that if you lose something, you will no longer be yourself. Because the truth is, you are always changing. You are not a fixed structure. You are a process, a flow, a sequence of eruptions and settling, and all of it is you. Nothing to remove, nothing to fully control, only to be understood more gently. And now as you lie there, you may begin to feel something soft. You do not need to fear strong emotions. You do not need to avoid unstable moments, because they are not signs that you are losing control. They may be signs that you are touching something real, something deeper, something that wants to be seen. And when you no longer resist them, they soften, they come, and they go, like waves, like the flaring of a star, not lasting forever, not destroying you, simply passing through and leaving behind a little light, a little understanding, a little more gentleness in how you see yourself. You do not need to become completely stable in order to rest. You can rest even while there is movement within you, like the universe never entirely still, yet holding deep spaces of quiet. And in that quiet, you can let go a little more. No need to hold everything, no need to control, just soften and allow everything to return to where it belongs. Strong emotions begin to ease. Fast thoughts begin to slow, not because you force them, but because you are no longer holding onto them, like a star after it flares, returning to a quieter state, still existing, but no longer tense. And you are the same. You are still here, not broken, not lost, only changing, very gently, very deeply, and very naturally. And in that naturalness, sleep arrives, not as a shutting off, but as a drifting into, a space where every eruption has settled, where every ending becomes a doorway, where you do not need to be anyone other than yourself, and you can rest, truly rest, in the soft quiet of the night. And as you remain in that light, gentle state, you may begin to notice something deeper, that instability is not the opposite of peace. Sometimes it is the path toward a different kind of peace, one that is deeper, more real, and less dependent on everything being as expected. These unstable stars do not try to become stable to meet a standard. They exist in change, and that change is their nature, not a flaw, not a deviation, but a way of being. If you listen closely, you may realize that perhaps you have spent a long time trying to become more stable, more controlled, less reactive. as if peace could only come when everything inside you becomes quiet, clear, predictable. But what if that never fully happens? What if the human mind is meant to move to shift to surprise? Then your moments of instability may not be problems at all. They may simply mean you are alive. Jung spoke of the importance of holding opposites, light and shadow, clarity and confusion, control and surrender, not by eliminating one side, but by allowing both to exist. And that is not easy, because we often want certainty. We want to know whether we are okay or not okay. But the universe does not function in such simple binaries. A star can be unstable and still endure. An explosion can be intense and not be an ending. And you can have chaotic moments and still be moving in the right direction. Perhaps if you allow yourself to feel this, a deep pressure begins to soften. The pressure to always be okay, to always know what you are doing, to always control your emotions. Because the truth is, no one does that perfectly. And perhaps no one needs to. You may begin to see your eruptions differently. Not something to immediately extinguish, but a signal, a quiet message that something within you needs attention, not to fix, but to listen. Perhaps a feeling you have ignored, a need you have not yet named, a part of you waiting to be seen. And when you are no longer afraid of these moments, they lose their threat. They may still be strong, but not overwhelming. They become part of the flow, like waves rising, falling, always part of the ocean. And when you return to the image of supernova imposters, you may sense something subtle. Not everything that looks like an ending is an ending. There are times when you feel something is over, a phase, a belief, a version of yourself. You may feel you have reached a limit, and yet it is not truly the end. It simply changes form. You continue differently, not the same, not entirely new, but transformed. And if you look back at such moments, you may see they did not destroy you. They expanded you, not in a way of becoming better, but in becoming deeper. And perhaps the gentlest truth you can carry into sleep now is this: you do not need to fear change. You do not need to fear strong emotions. You do not need to fear moments when you do not recognize yourself, because you are not disappearing. You are transforming. And transformation is not linear. It comes in waves, sometimes clear, sometimes subtle, sometimes like an explosion, sometimes like a quiet shift, but all of it belongs to your journey. And when you stop trying to control that journey so tightly, you begin to feel lighter. Not because everything becomes easy, but because you are no longer resisting yourself. You allow yourself to move through feelings, through changes, through unclear phases, like a star, moving through its cycles. No need to understand everything, no need to predict, just continue. And now, as your body softens further into rest, you may notice something simple. You are safe. Even if you do not fully understand yourself, even if parts of you are still moving, even if you have erupted and will again, you are still here, still breathing, still existing, and that is enough. You do not need to fix anything right now. No need to find answers. No need to clarify everything. You can rest in imperfection, in incompleteness, in a state where everything is allowed to be as it is. And as you allow that, a deep quiet begins to spread. Not because everything stops, but because you no longer need everything to stop. A soft acceptance, very gentle, very real. Your breath slows. Your body grows heavier. Your mind loosens its grip on each thought. The images of erupting stars drift farther away, no longer sharp, no longer intense, just small points of light dissolving into space, and you dissolve into a wider space, a space of rest, a space of release, a space where you do not need to be any version of yourself, only present, very light, very deep, and very still, until everything fades and sleep gently arrives. Part 5. Rapidly spinning and deformed stars. As you drift deeper into the quiet of the night, there is another image, strange at first, yet quietly familiar if you feel it slowly. These are stars that spin so fast they can no longer hold their original shape. They flatten at the equator, stretch outward, distort, and around them, a disk of gas forms, swirling endlessly like a storm that never stops. A star, yet no longer entirely a star. A system, both ordered and chaotic. If you pause with this image, without trying to understand, only to feel, you may recognize something within yourself that has felt this way before. There are times when you spin very fast, not physically, but inwardly, thought following thought, emotion layering over emotion, one task unfinished, another already arriving. You move from one thing to another, almost without pause, and slowly you begin to feel that you are no longer holding your original shape. You are no longer sure what you think, no longer certain what you feel, no longer aware of your own center, only a sense of being stretched. From an ordinary perspective, you might think this is loss of control, something wrong. But through Jung's lens, such states are not necessarily wrong. They may be signs that the energy within you has become too great to be contained in an old structure. And so, the structure changes, not to destroy, but to adapt. Like those rapidly spinning stars, no longer round yet, still existing, becoming something more complex, more dynamic, less predictable. Perhaps you have known such moments. Times when you no longer felt as stable as before, no longer calm in familiar ways, no longer functioning as you used to, and that may have worried you. But if you look more deeply, these may have been moments when something within you was trying to move beyond old limits, not to become better by some standard, but to become more real. Because sometimes the stability we are used to is only temporary balance, a learned state that no longer reflects the fullness of who we are. And when inner energy shifts, when deeper needs arise, that state is no longer enough. It begins to crack, not as total collapse, but as deformation, like a star flattening under its own speed, and around it, a disk begins to form, a region of constant movement, a space where energy is released, swirling, searching for new structure. If you listen inwardly, you may notice similar vortices within yourself during such times, repeating thoughts, circling emotions, questions without clear answers. One part of you trying to understand, another simply feeling, all of it in motion. It may feel tiring. You may wish it would stop, but if you do not resist, if you simply observe, you may begin to see that within the chaos, there is a subtle order, not linear order, but the order of a system, recalibrating itself. Jung called this a psychological rebalancing, when neglected or suppressed parts begin to rise, not to disrupt, but to be integrated. And this process is not smooth. It may feel like a storm, but like in nature, a storm is not always destruction. Sometimes it is how a system releases energy in order to return to a new equilibrium. And if you are within such a storm, perhaps the gentlest thing you can do, Nina, Niren, not to stop it, but to stand at its center. Not a perfect center, just a small point where you realize all of this is happening and I am still here. You are still breathing, still sensing, still existing. And that is another kind of stability. Not the absence of movement, but steadiness within movement. Like a rapidly spinning star, though distorted, though surrounded by swirling matter, it still has a core, a place where everything converges, a place unseen, yet always present. You have such a place within you, not a thought, not a feeling, but a presence, a quiet sense, I am here. And when you connect with that, even as everything moves, you are no longer entirely swept away. You begin to observe. Instead of being carried, you begin to breathe. Instead of controlling, you begin to release instead of holding. And as you release, things do not stop instantly, but they begin to slow. The spirals and widen. The movements soften, not because they disappear, but because you are no longer resisting them. And in that non-resistance, there is a deep gentleness. You do not need to return to your old shape. You do not need to slow down immediately. You do not need to become stable right away. You can be as you are, even if a little distorted, a little chaotic, a little unclear, because this is not error, it is a phase of energy reorganizing, a phase of becoming something new. No need to rush, no need to understand at once. Just remain in sensation, in breath, in this simple presence. And as you lie there, your body sinking deeper into rest, you may notice the spinning within you, no longer as strong, still there, but more distant, more gentle, like a disk of gas, still turning, but no longer pulling you with it. And you remain at the center. No need to act, no need to change anything. Just rest within a system that is not perfect, yet still self-adjusting, within a person not completely stable, yet still steady enough to exist. And in that steadiness, sleep will come, not as a shutting off, but as a settling, a space where all movement becomes softer, and you drift gently into quiet. And as you continue in that slow state, you may begin to feel something deeper, that distortion is not always the loss of yourself. Sometimes it is a sign that you are growing beyond a form that has become too small. Those rapidly spinning stars do not choose to flatten. It is a natural result of energy of forces within them. And when it happens, they do not cease. They simply change how they exist. If you look at yourself, you may recall times when you no longer recognized your familiar shape. You no longer reacted the same, no longer thought the same, no longer held what once felt certain. And that may have felt like losing something important. But if you listen gently, you may realize you did not lose yourself. You were expanding, and expansion is not always smooth. It can stretch you beyond old limits, make you feel less defined, a little unclear, even unfamiliar to yourself. But this is not error, it is movement, a reshaping to meet new energy. Jung saw inner development not as preserving a fixed identity, but as continuously restructuring the self as deeper layers emerge into awareness. And each time, you may feel different, not better, not worse, just different. Like a star, no longer round, yet still itself. And when you notice the disk around those spinning stars, you see something interesting. What is cast outward does not disappear. It forms a new system, a new space of movement, a region that did not exist before. Within you, something similar happens. What you lose does not vanish. Thoughts, feelings, experiences may no longer be central, but they remain somewhere, in memory, in sensation, in subtle ways you respond. And sometimes these vortices may tire you, as if thoughts will not stop, as if emotions keep circling, as if you cannot return to normal. But if you do not fight them, if you simply observe, you may begin to see they are not enemies. They are energies, seeking to be understood, not to be removed, but to be integrated. Jung believed that what is pushed out of conscious awareness does not disappear. It becomes part of the unconscious, continuing to influence you. Like the disk around a star, no longer the core, yet still moving, still interacting, still holding force. And the gentlest thing you can do is not to pull everything back to the center, but to notice it, allow it. No need to understand immediately, no need to fix, just see. And when you see, something subtle happens. They begin to soften, not because they disappear, but because you are no longer resisting, like a storm that, when unopposed, slowly dissolves. And in that process, a new balance forms, not the same as before, but more fitting for who you are now. And perhaps the most important thing you can carry from this is, you do not need to return to how you were to feel okay. You do not need to slow everything immediately. You do not need to eliminate every distortion. You can learn to exist as you are, not forever, just for now. And as you do, a deep lightness appears, not control, but permission. Permission to be unclear, not fully stable, not fully understood. And in that incompleteness, there is a quiet freedom. No need to prove, no need to explain. Just be. And as your body sinks deeper into rest, you may feel that the movements within you are no longer so close. They are still there, but you are not inside them anymore. You are at a gentle distance, a space where you can observe without being carried away. And in that space, you can breathe, a little deeper, a little slower, without effort, and with each breath, your body releases. Small tensions dissolve, tight places soften, not because you are doing something, but because you have stopped doing too much. You are no longer forcing everything into a fixed shape. You allow everything to find its place, like a system adjusting itself. And you do not need to interfere, just trust, not in a specific outcome, but in your ability to move through as you have before, as stars have, through their most extreme states, and still remained. So will you. You do not need to be perfect to rest. You only need to be gentle with yourself. And as you soften, your inner world softens too, not immediately, but gradually, very slowly, very gently. And in that slowness, something familiar appears, quiet, not the absence of everything, but the presence of a space wide enough for everything to settle. And in that space, you can drift, no direction needed, no effort required, just drift into sleep, light as a cloud, distant as a star, and quiet as you are now. Part 6. Stars that shed their skin. As you drift deeper into the quiet expanse of the night, you may encounter an image that feels very gentle, yet carries a depth of beauty that is difficult to put into words. These are stars that are shedding not through violent explosions, but through a slow, soft process, where they release layers of themselves into the surrounding space. An aging star, no longer holding everything within. It begins to let go, layer by layer. And from those layers drifting outward, a planetary nebula forms thin, glowing clouds of gas, spreading like colored mist, creating a scene that is both fragile and eternal. If you pause with this image and feel it slowly, you may recognize that in human life there are also such phases, times when you no longer hold on to things as before, not because you are forced to let go, but because you no longer need to hold them. Perhaps old beliefs, ways of seeing yourself, expectations you once thought were essential. They do not vanish suddenly. They leave gradually, softly, almost without a sound. In the view of Carl Gustav Jung, the deepest human development is not about accumulating more, but about releasing what no longer belongs to you, not through force, but through maturity. When you truly understand something, you no longer need to cling to it. When you have truly lived through an experience, you no longer need to hold it tightly. And like those stars, when they reach the later stages of their lives, they do not try to keep their outer layers. They let them go, not as loss, but as completion. There is a profound gentleness in this, because we often think that letting go means losing something, but in truth, letting go can be a way of allowing something else to appear. When a star releases its outer shell, it does not become empty. It creates a new environment, a surrounding space, where new forms can arise, new lights can appear, a different beauty, one that did not exist before. And if you listen inwardly, you may realize that each time you let go of something, you are not only losing it, you are creating space. Space for lightness, space for quiet, space for a new way of being. Yet this process is not always easy to notice. It is not loud. There is no clear moment. Just one day you realize you no longer feel the same way. Something once important is no longer so. A familiar reaction no longer appears. A strong emotion becomes only a faint echo, and you cannot say exactly when it changed, only that it has. Like a star, unaware of the precise moment, its outer layers begin to drift away. It simply happens. And then there is another image, a little more intense, the wolf, Rarest Stars. Not only letting go, but being stripped away. Powerful stellar winds, pushing their outer layers outward fast and continuously. A process less gentle than a nebula, more forceful. If you listen to this within yourself, you may recognize that not all letting go is soft. There are times when you do not choose to release, but you must. Something changes, a circumstance shifts, a truth can no longer be avoided, and in those moments, you may feel as though something is being taken from you. Not slowly, but quickly, strongly, without much choice. Experiences like this can feel disorienting, but through Jung's perspective, what is blown away is not your essence. It is the outer layers, the structures you built to adapt, to protect, to survive, and when they are no longer needed, they fall away, not to weaken you, but to bring you closer to your core, the part that is not easily swept away, the part not dependent on circumstance, the part that is you. And perhaps, if you look back at times when you felt you lost something, you may see that afterward, you were still here. Not the same as before, but not gone. Just a little lighter, a little less layered, and sometimes closer to yourself. And when you bring these two images together, the gentle release of the nebula and the powerful stripping of stellar winds, you may begin to see something deeper. Transformation has no single form. It can be slow or sudden, soft or intense, conscious or unexpected, but all of it is part of the same process. A process in which you are not becoming someone entirely new, but returning closer to what has always been there. And as you lie there, in the deepening quiet, you may sense that something within you is also leaving. No effort required, no decision needed, just naturally. A thought, no longer repeating, an emotion, no longer heavy. They do not vanish completely, but they are no longer at the center, and you do not need to hold them. You can let them drift outward, like layers of gas, dissolving into space. No need to bring them back, no need to explain, just let them go. And as you allow this, a subtle lightness appears. Not complete lightness, but enough. Enough to breathe more deeply. Enough for your body to soften. Enough for your mind to release its grip. And in that enough, there is a quiet that feels real. Not because everything is finished, but because you no longer need everything to be finished. You accept that some things are leaving, and some things will come, but not now. Now is simply an in-between, a space where you do not need to become anything, only to be, like a star, in the process of shedding. No need to rush, no need to force, just continue to exist. And in that existence, everything will find its place, very slowly, very gently, very naturally. And you can rest in a space where nothing more needs to be held, nothing needs to be proven, nothing needs to be become, only to release and drift, light as a nebula, distant as stellar winds, and quiet as you are now. And as you remain in that stillness, you may begin to sense something even subtler, that shedding is not a negative act, but a natural transformation. You are not losing something essential. You are becoming lighter in order to exist differently. Those aging stars do not cling to their shells out of fear. They simply let go, not because they are weaker, but because the time has come. And perhaps in your life there are things like this as well. Thoughts you once believed, now uncertain. Emotions that once filled you, now only echoes. Stories about yourself, no longer carrying the same meaning. And when this happens, you may feel a kind of emptiness. Not emptiness as absence, but as space. A space where the old has left and the new has not yet arrived. This space can feel uncomfortable because we are used to holding on to something, a clear thought, a familiar feeling, a defined identity. But when these begin to fall away, you may feel as though you are in between, no longer what you were, not yet something else. And it is precisely in this in-between that true transformation happens. Jung described this as a transitional space of the psyche, where the old dissolves, but the new has not yet formed. A state that may feel uncertain, undefined, disorienting, but it is not a sign that you are lost. It is a sign that you are truly changing. Because only when one form dissolves can another emerge. And like planetary nebulae, where what was once the outer shell becomes a new environment, a new beauty, what you release does not disappear. It becomes part of your surroundings, part of how you see the world, part of how you understand others, part of the gentleness you carry within. You no longer hold it, but it remains in a lighter way. And that is a deep kind of maturity, not addition, but transformation. And when you think again of Rarest Stars, you may remember that sometimes transformation is not gentle. Sometimes it comes quickly, unexpectedly. Before you are ready, something changes too fast. Something ends before you understand. Something is taken without your choice. And in those moments, you may feel stripped, not gradually, but almost entirely. What you relied on, what you thought was certain, what defined you, gone. And that can be difficult. But even then, there is a part of you that remains. A part not dependent on outer layers. A part that does not need form. Jung called this the self, not the ego you usually think of, but a deeper center, wider, more enduring. And sometimes, it is through these moments of loss that you come closer to it, not by seeking it, but by having nothing else to hold on to. And when there is nothing to hold, you begin to see what remains. Not what you have, but who you are. No definition needed, no explanation required, just presence. Simple, real. And as you lie there, in the deep quiet, you may begin to feel that you do not need to hold everything in order to feel safe. You do not need to hold every thought, every emotion, every story about yourself. You can let go, not all at once, just little by little. A thought can pass, an emotion can soften, no effort needed, only not holding. And when you stop holding, a natural lightness appears, not complete, but lighter than before, enough to release tension, enough to stop striving, enough to rest. And in that rest, you do not need to know who you will become after shedding. You do not need answers, because this process does not require control. It unfolds in its own way, like stars, not needing to know what their nebula will look like. They simply let go, and from that, something beautiful emerges, not planned, but natural. And you are the same. You do not need to know where everything is going. You only need to trust that you can move through, as you always have. And now, you can let go a little more. Your breath slower, your body softer, your mind wider. What is no longer needed gently leaves. No pushing, no forcing, only allowing. And in that allowing, something very gentle appears. You do not need to hold everything to remain yourself. Even as you release, you are still here, still breathing, still present. And that is enough. Enough to drift, enough to rest, enough to fall asleep. Light as a layer of gas, leaving a star, soft as a spreading nebula, and quiet as you are now. Part 7. Stars that draw from each other. As you drift deeper into the night sky, you may encounter another image, unfamiliar yet quietly recognizable. Binary star systems, where two stars do not exist alone but are bound by gravity. And in some cases, that connection becomes so intense that one star begins to draw matter from the other. Not a sudden collision, but a gradual process. Silent, continuous, a stream of material, slowly flowing from one to the other. If you listen to this image slowly, you may recognize something similar in human relationships. Connections that are not simply about being side by side, but about influencing each other, changing each other, and sometimes taking from each other. Not always clearly, not always consciously, just happening. Perhaps you have been in a relationship where you felt you were giving a lot. Time, energy, attention, and you did not notice at first. Only gradually, you felt more tired, less energized, less like yourself, like a star, losing its matter. But there are also times when you are on the other side, receiving much, support, presence, care, and this allows you to continue, to burn longer, to become something different. Such relationships are not simply good or bad. They are complex, like the universe. According to Carl Gustav Jung, we do not exist as isolated beings. We carry parts of others within us and leave parts of ourselves in others. Every relationship is not just a meeting of two individuals, but an interaction between two inner worlds, two unconscious realms, two streams of energy. And when these systems connect, they do not just coexist. They begin to influence, transform, reshape, like binary stars no longer entirely separate, but forming a shared system. And within that system, powerful things can happen. One star drawing from another may lead to eruptions, intense bursts, irreversible change. And if you listen inwardly, you may recognize relationships that created such explosions in your life. Not physically, but emotionally. A sudden shift in how you see the world, a feeling so strong you did not recognize yourself, an experience that made you rethink everything. These moments often come from connection, not from one side alone, but from interaction. And this can feel frightening, because when you connect deeply, you cannot fully control what happens. You open, and when you open, you can be affected. But through Jung's perspective, such relationships are essential to becoming yourself, because there are parts of you that only appear in relationship, reactions you do not have alone, emotions that arise only with others. And what Jung called the shadow, the unseen parts of yourself, often emerge through interaction, not to harm you, but to be recognized. And when you recognize, you begin to understand, not to eliminate, but to integrate. Yet this process is not always easy. It can feel like being drained or receiving something too overwhelming. But if you stay, if you do not run away immediately, you may begin to see that it is not only about loss or gain, it is movement, a flow, an exchange. And in that exchange, both sides change. No one remains the same. And that is not failure. It is the nature of connection. The universe is not made of isolated objects. It is a network, a web of interactions. And you are part of that web. You do not need to become a solitary star to be strong. You can exist in relationship and still remain yourself. But this requires something subtle, awareness. You notice when you are giving too much. You notice when you are receiving too much. You notice how a relationship is shaping you, not to control, but to understand. And when you understand, you can choose, not choosing the other person, but choosing how you are within the relationship. You may stay with awareness or step away with gentleness. No need to resist, no need to cling, only to be honest with yourself. And now, as you lie there, in deepening quiet, you may feel that the flows within you are softening. Thoughts about others slowing, feelings tied to relationships easing, not disappearing, but no longer held tightly. You allow them to move, like matter between stars, simply flowing. And in that movement, you are no longer stretched, no longer trying to hold everything together. You can release, not letting go of others, but letting go of tension, letting go of the need to control every interaction, letting go of the need to understand everything. And as you release, a deep lightness appears, not separation, but freedom within connection. You are not carried away, but you are not closed. You are in between, soft, open, yet still yourself. And in that state, you can rest. No need to resolve every relationship. No need to understand every feeling. Just be here, in your body, in your breath, in this simple presence. And as you remain there, everything outside drifts farther away. Relationships, stories, interactions, no longer at the center. You are at the center, not as a fixed identity, but as a space, wide, quiet, able to hold everything without being pulled away. And in that space, you can drift gently. No need to hold, no need to resist, only to be. And slowly, all movement softens, all flows slow, and you drift into sleep, soft, deep, and very still. Part 8. Stars with their inner core exposed. As you continue to drift deeper into the stillness of the night, there is a very particular image, not radiant, not intense yet, carrying a quiet and profound beauty, stars that have lost their outer layers, revealing their inner core. No more familiar coverings, no more light spreading outward as before. Only the core remains helium-carbon, what has always been there but once hidden. If you pause with this image, you may feel something very close to your own experience. Because in life there are moments when you feel as though you are being revealed, not from the outside, but from within. The layers you once used to define yourself, roles, identities, ways of seeing who you are, begin to loosen, and something deeper begins to appear. Not loud, not performative, but very real. In the view of Carl Gustav Jung, a human being is not only what is shown outwardly. Beneath the persona, the social masks, there is always a deeper, more original presence, what he called the self. Yet this part is not always easy to access. It is often covered by necessary layers so that you can live, adapt, and exist in the world. And that is completely natural. You need those layers. You need roles, expressions, structures that help you navigate. But sometimes, over time, those layers no longer fit, not because they were wrong, but because you have changed. And when that happens, they begin to fall away. Not always gently, not always consciously, just no longer holding as before. And then you begin to see what is inside, perhaps a feeling you have never faced, a vulnerability you once hid, a need you never named. And when these parts appear, they may feel unfamiliar, even unsettling, because they do not match the image you were used to. But if you do not push them away, if you simply stay, you may begin to realize that they are not foreign at all. They are you, a part of you that has always been there, only now you can see it, like the core of a star revealed when its outer layers fall away. Not something newly created, but something that has always existed. And perhaps what makes this moment special is not the loss of the outer layers, but the opportunity to see. You see yourself in a different way, not through roles, not through expectations, not through what you think you should be, just as you are. And that can be very quiet, not absolute silence, but a kind of stillness, without the need to hold an image, no need to prove, no need to control, only to be present. And as you allow yourself to remain there, a deep gentleness begins to spread. You no longer need to return to who you were, no need to rebuild the layers that have fallen away. You can stay with the core, not to analyze, not to define, just to feel. And in that feeling, you may notice that the core is not something frightening. It is not as complex as you imagined. It does not demand anything from you. It simply is very simple, very real. And there is something subtle here. When the outer layers are gone, you do not become empty. You become clearer. Not clear in every detail, but clear in sensation, clear in presence, clear in the simple knowing that you are here. No need to be anyone else. No need to perform. Just you. And in this state, there is a very particular lightness. Not because you have nothing, but because you are no longer carrying so much. What is unnecessary has left. What remains is enough. Enough to exist, enough to feel, enough to rest. And as you lie there, in the deepening quiet, you may begin to feel that you do not need to return to all the layers you once had. You do not need to be complete, according to any image. You can be here, in this present state, with what is revealed. No need to cover it again. No need to change it. Only to accept. And as you accept, Everything softens. No more tension between should be and what is. No more pressure to maintain a form. Only a very gentle presence. Very real. And in that presence, you can breathe a little slower, a little deeper. No effort needed. Just let the breath move. And with the breath, your body begins to release. Tension dissolves. Thoughts drift away. Not because they disappear, but because you are no longer holding them. You do not need to hold an image, a story, anything at all. You can be here, with the core. Very simple, very quiet. And in that quiet, sleep will come. Not as a shutting down, but as a sinking into a space without outer layers, without roles, without pressure. Only you, light, deep, and completely enough. And as you remain in that softness, you may begin to feel something even deeper, that being exposed is not something to avoid, but a rare opportunity to touch something more authentic than any layer you have ever carried. Those stars once stripped of their outer layers no longer shine in familiar ways. They are not as radiant, but they are clearer, nothing covering them, nothing scattering their light. And if you listen gently, you may recognize moments in your life like this. Times when you no longer feel as bright as before. Less energy, less momentum, less like the version of yourself you once knew. And that may worry you. You may feel you are losing something, but perhaps you are not losing. You are becoming simpler. And within that simplicity, there is a different kind of clarity. Not clarity of thought, but clarity of presence. You are no longer pulled in many directions, no longer divided across many roles. You begin to feel a quiet settling, not absolute stillness, but a gentle resting, like when the outer layers fade and what remains no longer needs to act. It simply is. According to Carl Gustav Jung, the deepest maturity is not about becoming an ideal image, but about gradually removing what is not truly yours, not by force, but by recognition. And when you recognize, those layers fall away naturally. No effort needed, no active shedding, only not holding. And when you stop holding, what remains is simple, not complex, not needing explanation, just a gentle sense of being alive. You do not need to be someone specific, no need to perform a role, no need to maintain an identity. You are simply here. And in that here, there is a deep peace, not because everything is perfect, but because you no longer need it to be. You do not need to understand yourself fully, do not need to define yourself, do not need to know where you are going. You can remain with what is unclear, with the core, without a name. And that may be the hardest part, because we are used to naming, defining, understanding. But the core does not speak in words. It does not explain. It simply exists. And to stay with it requires something very gentle: permission. Permission to not know. Permission to be uncertain. Permission to not be anyone in this moment. And when you allow that, a real lightness appears. Not because everything is resolved, but because nothing needs to be resolved right now. You no longer need to do anything with yourself, only to be. And as you are, things begin to settle, not by plan, but by a natural rhythm, like a star, continuing after its core is revealed, not returning to what it was, but existing in a different way, simpler, yet just as real. And you are the same. You do not need to return to everything you once were. You can continue, not by adding more, but by becoming lighter. And as you lie there, your body sinking deeper into rest, you may feel that clarity is not required for rest. You do not need to understand yourself to sleep. Do not need to resolve every feeling. Do not need to fix anything. You can rest even in the unknown, because the core does not need clarity to exist. It only needs to be allowed. And when you allow that, a deep quiet emerges. Not emptiness, but enoughness. Enough with what is. Enough with who you are. No more needed. Nothing to remove. Just enough. And in that enough, you can let go a little more. Your breath slower. Your body heavier. Your mind no longer holding each thought. Images fade. No longer clear. No longer needed. Only a gentle feeling remains. Very soft. Very deep. Very still. And in that stillness, you no longer need to hold any layer. No need to hide. No need to perform. No need to become. Only to be. With the core. With presence. With the simple sense that you are here. And that is enough. And as you rest in that feeling, sleep will come. No need to call it. No need to seek it. It simply arrives. Light as mist. Soft as space. And deep as the quiet core within you now. Part 9. Other strange phenomena. As you drift deeper into the quiet of the night, you may begin to notice something very gentle. That the universe is not made only of clear stories of beginning and ending. Not every star is simply born, lives, and dies. Between those points, there exist countless in-between states, ambiguous, transitional, and sometimes difficult to name. Some stars veil themselves in dust, as if they do not wish to be fully seen. Some stars merge, becoming something entirely new, and some stars flicker, not because they are fading, but because they are forming. If you listen to these images as soft metaphors, you may recognize similar states within yourself. You are not always clear. You do not always know where you are. There are phases where you feel in between, no longer who you were, not yet something new. And that can feel confusing. But through the lens of Carl Gustav Jung, these in-between states are where real transformation happens. Not when everything is clear, but when everything is not. Consider the stars that veil themselves in dust. They do not disappear. They are still there, but their light is softened, filtered, harder to see. And within yourself, there are times like this too. You do not vanish. You do not stop existing. But you do not wish to be fully seen. Perhaps you need space. A place where you do not have to explain, do not have to perform, do not have to shine, just to be. Quiet, soft, unnoticed. And this is not weakness. It may be a form of protection, a way of conserving energy. A way of not always being on display. Jung believed not every part of the psyche needs to be brought into the light immediately. Some parts need time, space, darkness to grow. And if you are in such a phase, you do not need to push yourself outward. You can remain within your dust, not to hide, but to rest. And then there are stars that merge. Two separate beings coming together, becoming one. No clear boundary. No you and me as before. Only something new. And in your inner life, there are experiences like this. Moments, relationships, ideas that do not simply pass through you. They stay, they blend, they become part of you. You are no longer who you were before them, not entirely different, but changed. And that is not loss. It is expansion. Jung called this integration when new elements become part of your psychological whole. And with each integration, you become a little more complex, a little deeper, perhaps a little more real. And then there are flickering stars, not fading, but forming, their light unstable, sometimes bright, sometimes dim, not because they are ending, but because they have not yet fully begun. And within yourself, you may know such phases. Moments of uncertainty, moments of not knowing direction. At times, you feel clear, then unclear again. And this may worry you. You may think you are lost, but perhaps you are not lost. You are forming something new within you, not yet stable, not yet shaped, but emerging. And like a young star, its light is uneven, not because it is weak, but because it is still becoming. You do not need to force clarity, do not need immediate answers. You can remain in the flicker, not forever, just long enough for the process to unfold. And when you bring all these images together, something gentle appears. Life is not only clear points, not only beginnings and endings, it is a continuum of in-between states, spaces, transitions, moments where you do not need to define yourself, only to be there. And perhaps the hardest part is accepting these spaces, because they offer no control, no certainty, no clear answers, but they offer something else: space. Space to become, space to change, space to not know. And as you lie there, in the deep quiet, you may begin to feel that you do not need to rush out of these in-between states. You do not need to escape uncertainty. You can remain there a little longer, not forever, just long enough for everything to settle. And as you stay, you may notice that ambiguity is not as frightening as it seemed. It is not an empty void. It is a space waiting to take form. And you do not need to do anything more. Just not rush, not force, not demand understanding, only to be. And as you are, everything softens. Not because answers appear, but because you no longer need them right now. And in that, a deep peace emerges. Not the peace of clarity, but the peace of acceptance. You accept that you are in between what has passed and what has not yet come, and that is enough. Enough to breathe, enough to release, enough to rest. And in that rest, all states begin to merge, all movement slows, and you drift into sleep, light, deep, and very still. Part 10: Stars as Physics Laboratories. As you drift deeper into the quiet vastness of the night, a very gentle idea may appear, one that opens into something vast. Some stars are not only there to shine, they are natural laboratories of the universe, places where the most extreme conditions exist. Gravity strong enough to bend space matter, compressed beyond imagination. Magnetic fields powerful enough to reshape everything nearby. And if you listen not only with your mind, but with a slower, softer awareness, you may begin to notice something familiar within yourself. Because within every human being, there are also such extreme zones, places where emotions become intense, where thoughts become dense, where you feel pulled in a direction not easy to leave. And often, we don't like these places. We want things to be calm, balanced, easy to understand. But through the lens of Carl Gustav Jung, these extreme inner zones are not problems to eliminate. They are inner laboratories, places where something real is happening. Not to be fixed immediately, but to be seen. Gravity. In the universe, there are regions where gravity is so strong that nothing easily escapes. Everything is pulled inward, held, compressed, and within you, there are similar forces, a worry you cannot stop returning to, a memory that keeps drawing you back, a feeling that holds you in place. These are like points of strong gravity. They pull you, not because you are weak, but because they are meaningful. According to Carl Gustav Jung, what has strong psychological gravity is often something not yet understood, not yet integrated. It remains until it is seen, not solved immediately, just noticed. And when you begin to look at it, not resisting, but observing, something subtle happens. The gravity shifts. It doesn't disappear, but it no longer pulls you as strongly, because you are no longer caught unconsciously. You are aware, and awareness itself is a form of freedom. Compressed matter in extreme stars. Matter is compressed so intensely that a tiny amount carries immense weight. And within you, there are moments like that. A single sentence, a brief moment, a passing memory, small but heavy. You may not think about it every day, but when it appears, you feel its weight. These are not random. They are places where something significant happened, something not fully understood. So it remains, not to burden you, but to be held. Not for now, not tonight, just at some point. And simply knowing it exists is enough. You don't need to unpack everything now. You can let it stay, like a small, dense core of meaning. No need to push it away, no need to force it open. Just allow it. Magnetic fields. Then there are invisible forces, fields you cannot see, but that influence everything. Within you there are also such fields, deep beliefs, quiet fears, unspoken desires. They do not always appear clearly, but they shape how you see, feel, choose, sometimes without you realizing, and what you think is natural may be guided by something unseen. Carl Gustav Jung called these structures of the unconscious, not something to remove, but something to recognize. Because once you recognize them, a small space appears. And in that space, you have a choice. Not always easy, but possible. And possible is enough. And when you bring all of this together, something gentle becomes clear. The extreme parts within you are not wrong. They are places of information. Places where if you look softly, you may understand yourself more deeply, not through heavy analysis, but through quiet awareness. And perhaps the kindest thing you can do right now is not to enter those inner laboratories, not to analyze, not to explain, but simply to know they exist and that you do not need to resolve everything tonight. You can let them be there, like distant regions of the universe. No need to reach them now, only to know they are there, and you do not need to be afraid. And as you lie there, your body settling deeper into rest, you may begin to feel that you do not need to understand yourself fully to sleep. You are not a problem to solve. You are a space, a place where things exist, without needing immediate resolution. And in that space, you can let go, not everything, just the need to understand, the need to control, the need to make everything clear. And as you let go, everything softens, not gone, but no longer tense, no longer close. They move a little farther, a little dimmer, and you remain here, in your body, in your breath, in this simple presence, and in that simplicity, you can rest. No need to observe, no need to analyze, just be. And as you are, all inner forces begin to balance. Not perfectly, but enough. Enough that you are no longer pulled, no longer compressed. Enough that you can drift, gently, slowly, into a space that needs no explanation, no understanding, only quiet. And in that quiet, sleep arrives. Soft, deep, and very gentle. Part 11. The role of binary star systems. As you continue to drift into the stillness of the night, you may begin to notice something very subtle. Not everything strange in the universe comes from a star's original nature. Much of it comes from interaction, from two stars moving close, exchanging matter, colliding, or even merging into something entirely new. And if you listen slowly, you may recognize this in yourself. Not everything within you was born that way. Much of who you are has been shaped by encounter, the people you met, the experiences you lived, the relationships that touched you in ways you could not fully control. According to Carl Gustav Jung, a human being is not a closed system. We are open systems where the outside world continuously enters, interacts, and reshapes what is inside. Like a binary star system, no longer two separate stars but one shared system. And within such a system, unexpected things happen. A star may shine brighter, another may lose part of itself. A star may become something entirely different from what it was supposed to be, and within you, there are also such strange parts, reactions you don't fully understand, feelings that appear in some relationships, but not others, ways of seeing the world that changed after meeting someone or living something, and sometimes you may wonder, is something wrong with me? But perhaps nothing is wrong. Perhaps you are simply reflecting the interactions you have lived. You are not only your original nature, you are what you have encountered. And that does not take you away from yourself. It makes you richer, more complex, more layered, and sometimes harder to understand. But that is natural. Think of collision. When two stars approach, they don't just sit side by side. They influence each other, shift each other's paths, sometimes collide, creating something new. In life, you have had such collisions, encounters that moved you deeply, encounters that hurt, encounters that made you see yourself differently. And after them, you are no longer the same. Not completely different, but not the same. And that is not a mistake. It is part of becoming. Then there is exchange. In binary systems, matter flows from one star to another, not always balanced. And in your relationships, you do the same. You give attention. You receive care. You carry parts of others, sometimes without noticing. A sentence stays. A glance lingers. A relationship reshapes you. And none of this is random. It is part of how you are formed, not only from within, but through connection. And then there is merging. Two stars become one, a new entity carrying both. And within you, there are experiences like this. They are no longer things that happened. They are part of you. You cannot separate them, and you do not need to, because they have become you naturally. And that does not erase your essence, it expands it. And when you gather all of this together, a gentle truth appears. What you once thought was strange in you may simply be the trace of your encounters with life. You do not need to fix every complexity. You do not need to make yourself simple. You can accept that you are a system shaped by interaction, a system that has lived, connected, changed, and that is completely okay. And as you lie there, in the deepening quiet, you may begin to feel that you do not need to carry all those interactions into your sleep. You do not need to think of every person, understand every experience. You can let them be, like stars, in a vast system. No need to touch, no need to adjust, only to exist. And you can step slightly back, not leaving, just not standing in the center of it all. You rest in a small distance, where you are not pulled by every interaction, where you are simply here, not the sum of everything, but a presence, quiet, simple, and in that quiet, you can let go, not of people, but of tension, not of connection, but of holding everything at once. And as you let go, space opens, wide, soft, still, and within that space, you can rest. No need to understand yourself fully, no need to resolve every interaction, only to be. And as you are, everything settles, your breath slower, your body softer, your mind no longer holding every thought, and you drift, no direction, no destination, only into a space where you do not need to be the result of everything that has ever happened, only yourself, light, deep, and very still, until sleep comes. Gently. Part 12. Briefness and rarity. As you continue drifting deeper into the stillness of the night, you may encounter a very gentle idea, one that carries a quiet depth, that there are states in the universe that exist only for a brief moment. Rare phenomena, subtle transformations. They appear, flare softly, and then fade away. And if you are not slow enough, not attentive enough, you may miss them entirely. If you listen to this slowly, you may begin to recognize that within yourself, there are moments like that too, passing emotions, thoughts that arise and disappear, very subtle sensations that vanish if you do not pause. Perhaps you have experienced moments where something very real appeared within you, a sudden understanding, a deep sense of peace, a moment when you felt more here than ever before, and then it was gone, quickly, almost without a trace, and you may have wondered, was it even real? But through the lens of Carl Gustav Jung, these brief moments are not illusions. They are moments when the unconscious touches consciousness, moments when something deeper within you appears, not for long, but long enough for you to feel it. And what matters is not holding on to them, because you cannot. Just like rare phenomena in the universe, you cannot make them last longer by will. You can only notice when they appear and allow them to pass. There is something deeply gentle in this, because we often want to hold on to beautiful moments, to extend them, to keep them, but that very effort often makes them disappear faster. Whereas, if you simply stay there, just notice, without grasping, without holding, without analyzing, they can touch you very lightly and leave something behind. Not a clear memory, but a feeling, a trace, a very small shift, yet very real. Jung believed that inner growth does not always come from big transformations. It can come from very small moments, very brief ones, but enough to open a new way of seeing, a new way of feeling. And those moments do not need to last to have meaning. They only need to happen. And for you to notice. And perhaps you may begin to look back at moments in your life that once felt fleeting, times when something deep appeared, but you could not explain it. Moments when you paused and felt a quiet you could not name. Times when something touched you in a very personal way. You may have forgotten them, but they happened. And they were not meaningless. They were brief windows, opening into something deeper within you, not asking you to pass through completely, just to look. And as you recognize this, you may begin to move a little more slowly. Not always, just sometimes. Enough not to miss the small moments, the quiet things, the ones that do not last, but are deeply real. And perhaps the gentlest thing you can carry into sleep now is this: you do not need to hold on to everything. You do not need to extend every feeling. You do not need to capture every moment. You can let everything come and go as it naturally does, not as loss, but as movement. And within that movement, there is a very deep peace. Not the peace of stopping, but the peace of acceptance. You accept that everything changes. Every feeling comes and goes. Every state does not remain forever. And that is not frightening. It is the nature of things. And when you stop resisting that, you begin to feel lighter. Not because everything becomes stable, but because you no longer need it to be. You can remain within the flow, without holding, without pushing, just drifting. And as you lie there, in the deepening quiet, you may begin to notice subtle moments arising, a brief sense of relaxation, a soft release, a gentle space. They do not last, but they are real, and you do not need to hold them. Just notice and let them pass. And when you do that, something very subtle happens. You no longer fear disappearance. You no longer fear that a good feeling but will not last. You understand that it does not need to last, to matter. It only needs to touch you, and then move on. And within that understanding, you can soften a little more. Your breath slower, your body softer, your mind no longer trying to hold anything. Everything comes and goes, gently, naturally, and you remain in the middle, not grasping, not holding, just present. And in that presence, every moment, however brief, is enough. Every feeling, however fleeting, is real. And you do not need to do anything more. Just rest. Within a flow that does not need to be held. Within a space where everything is allowed to come and go. And in that space, sleep arrives. Light like a passing moment, soft like a nameless feeling, and deep like the quiet you are touching now. Part 13. The universe does not follow simple rules. As you continue drifting deeper into the quiet vastness of the night, you may begin to sense something very subtle, yet expansive. The universe does not operate according to simple rules as we often expect. Not every star follows a fixed path from birth to end. Some are changed by companions. Some become entirely different from what was predicted. And some paths cannot be mapped in advance. If you listen to this slowly, you may recognize that human life is the same. You may have once believed your life would follow a clear path, a direction you could understand, control, predict. And then something changed. A meeting, a decision, an experience you did not plan. And from that, your path turned. Not better or worse, just different. Through the perspective of Carl Gustav Jung, human development is not a straight line. The process of becoming oneself, what he called individuation, is not about following a fixed plan, but about continuous adjustment, change, and response to what you encounter. Like a forest, there is no single path. Some trails are clear, others only appear when you come close. And sometimes, you do not choose the path. The path chooses you. If you listen to this within yourself, you may begin to realize not every change in your life is a mistake. Not every turn is a failure. Some things cannot be predicted, yet they are still part of the journey. And that can feel unsettling because we often seek simplicity, a clear map, a certain plan, a path we can control. But life does not always offer that. It is more like a forest, complex, layered, full of paths and interactions. Not always easy to understand, but that does not mean you are lost. It may simply mean you are within a larger system, one you cannot fully see. And when you accept that, something softens. You no longer need to understand everything, no longer need to predict every step, no longer need to make life simple. You can remain within the complexity, not to control it, but to experience it. And perhaps the gentlest realization is this: you do not need to see the whole path to keep moving. You only need the next step, just enough to continue. And when you lie there, in the deepening quiet, you may begin to feel you do not need to solve your entire life tonight. You do not need to understand every choice. You do not need to know every direction. You can be here in a very small place, very simple, a place where you only feel your breath, your body, your presence. You do not need the whole picture, just this moment. And as you rest there, everything else gently moves into the background. Not gone, but no longer close, no longer heavy, like paths in a forest, still there, but not needed right now. And you return to something simple, breathing, being, present. You do not need to be someone searching. You can be someone resting, without answers, without direction, just here. And as you are, everything softens. Your breath slower, your body softer, your mind no longer trying to understand, and you drift. No map, no destination, just drifting into a space where life does not need to be simple to be enough. And in that enoughness, a sleep comes, light like a step without needing direction, soft like a breeze in an unmapped forest, and deep like the letting go you are allowing now. Part 14. The sky is no longer the same. As you reach the final part of this journey, you may begin to realize that the night sky you once looked at no longer feels the same. Those small, quiet points of light you once thought were simply stars now seem to carry a different depth. Each light is no longer just an anonymous dot, but a story, a process, a history, a chain of transformations that the naked eye cannot see, yet are always unfolding. And if you listen to this slowly, you may notice that this change has not only happened to the sky, it has also happened to the way you see yourself. Through the perspective of Carl Gustav Jung, what matters is not that the world changes, but that your perception of it does. When you begin to notice depths you once overlooked, everything around you becomes more alive, not because it has newly appeared, but because you are seeing differently. The stars did not suddenly become mysterious. They have always been that way. It's just that you didn't know before. And in the same way, there are parts within you that have always existed. Emotions, movements, processes you did not once see, not because they weren't there, but because you had not yet noticed. And when you begin to notice, everything changes. You no longer see yourself as something fixed. No longer think that you are a certain kind of person. You begin to see that you are a process, a flow, a series of transformations, sometimes stable, sometimes chaotic, sometimes clear, sometimes uncertain, and all of it is you. Nothing needs to be removed. Nothing needs to be fixed, only to be seen. And when you see, a deep gentleness begins to appear. You no longer need to hold yourself in a fixed shape, no longer need to become a correct version of yourself. You can change, not because you are unstable, but because you are alive. And living is always a process. Like the stars, they do not stand still. They do not simply exist. They transform, they interact, they pass through states that if you only looked from afar, you would never know. And when you understand that The sky is no longer a static backdrop. It becomes a living space, a place where everything is happening, continuously, endlessly, and you are part of that life, not separate, not outside. You are also changing, right now. Even as you lie there, listening, and slowly drifting into quiet, you may not feel it clearly, but something within you is shifting, very gently, very deeply, and very naturally. And perhaps the most important thing you can carry from this journey is not knowledge about stars, but a way of seeing, a softer way, a wider way, a less judgmental way. You do not need to understand everything to know it has meaning. You do not need to explain every feeling to accept that it is real. You do not need to control every change to trust that you are still moving in the right direction. You can remain within this aliveness without simplifying it, without forcing it to make sense, just accepting that it is complex and still beautiful. And as you lie there, in the deepening quiet, you may begin to feel that you do not need to become anything before you sleep. You do not need to be complete. You do not need to understand everything. You do not need to resolve anything. You can rest, even while you are still changing, even while things are still unclear, even while you are still in the middle of a process, because you do not need to be finished to be at peace. You can be at peace within the process. And as you allow that, a gentle release begins to spread, not releasing everything, just releasing the need to hold everything, releasing the need to understand, releasing the need to control. You do not need to hold on to your image, your story, anything at all. You can let everything return to its flow, and you drift with it, not being pulled, not being pushed, just drifting in a wide space, soft and quiet, where you are no longer a fixed point, but part of movement, part of life. And within that life, you do not need to do anything more, just be very light, very deep, and very real. And in that state, the sky within you changes too, no longer scattered points of light, but a living space where each feeling, each thought, each movement carries its own story. You do not need to understand it all, just know that it is unfolding and you are part of it. And in that realization, everything begins to settle. Your breath slows, your body softens, your mind no longer clings to each thought. Images fade, stories dissolve, leaving a very gentle feeling, very quiet, and very enough. And within that enoughness, sleep arrives. No need to call it, no need to search. It simply comes. Light like a distant star, soft like endless space, and deep like the quiet you are touching now. And as you remain in that quiet space, you may begin to feel something even deeper, that the way you now see the sky is the same way you are beginning to see yourself. Not because the sky has changed, but because you are looking differently, a gaze that no longer seeks simplicity, but allows aliveness, no longer needing things to stay still, but allowing them to move. And that is very gentle, very natural. Like a moment when you stop trying to understand everything and simply see that each star is a story, not an isolated point, but a journey, a process, a chain of changes you do not need to fully witness to know it is happening. And if you listen to this within yourself, you may begin to realize you are not a fixed point either. You are not a permanent identity, not a story with a clear beginning and end. You are a flow, a journey, a continuous movement. Parts of you have already changed without you noticing. Parts are changing right now, gently, deeply, without needing control. And in the view of Carl Gustav Jung, recognizing yourself as a process rather than a fixed structure is a profound step in inner development. Not to lose yourself, but to no longer be confined by rigid definitions. You do not need to be a certain person. You can become, not by plan, not by formula, just in your own way. And when you realize that, a deep lightness appears. You no longer need to hold your image, no longer maintain a fixed story, no longer prove that you are stable. You can change, and that does not make you less. It makes you more real. And perhaps the gentlest thing you can carry now is this: you do not need to understand your whole story to be at peace. You do not need to know where you are in your journey. You do not need to be complete. You can rest within the process. Just like the sky does not need to stop to be beautiful. It is beautiful in its movement. And you are the same. You do not need to wait until everything is stable to feel peace. You can be at peace, even while changing, even while unclear, even while in between. And as you lie there, your body sinking deeper into rest, you may feel that you do not need to carry your whole story into sleep. You do not need to hold every memory, every thought, every feeling. You can let them remain there, like stars in a vast sky. No need to touch them, no need to understand them. Just let them exist, and you can step back, not leaving, just not standing in the center. You rest in a gentle distance, a place where you are not pulled by every movement, a place where you simply are, not the story, not the image, just presence, simple, quiet. And in that quiet, you can soften a little more. No need to release everything, just release the need to hold, release the need to understand, release the need to control. And as you release, everything begins to drift away. Thoughts, further, feelings, softer, images, fading, not gone, but no longer close, no longer heavy. And you are here, in your body, in your breath, in a space that needs no definition. And within that space, there is a deep peace, not emptiness, but enoughness. Nothing to add, nothing to remove, just enough. And as you rest in that feeling, everything dissolves further. Boundaries soften, stories fade, definitions no longer needed, leaving a presence very light, very deep, and very real. And in that truth, you no longer need to be someone. You simply are. And as you are, everything settles. Your breath slower, your body heavier, your mind no longer chasing thoughts, and you drift. No direction, no destination, just drifting into a space where you are no longer a story to complete, but a life unfolding, light, deep, and very still. And in that stillness, sleep comes. No need to call it, no need to find it. It simply arrives, light like a distant star, soft like infinite space, and deep like the letting go you are allowing now. As you reach these final moments of the journey, you may realize what has changed is not the universe, but the way you see it. The stars are still there, still burning, still transforming, according to deep laws we only begin to understand. But within you, something has softened. You no longer see the sky as distant, silent points. you begin to feel each light is a story, each movement is a process, each strangeness is part of life, and gently, you begin to see yourself the same way, not a fixed version, not a story that must be clear, not a straight path to follow. You are a living space, a place where things come and go, where different parts coexist, where change is not a problem, but the nature of being. Through the lens of Carl Gustav Jung, what matters most is not who you become, but that you gradually realize what you are not, through definitions, but through experience, not through control, but through allowing. And perhaps, after everything you have heard, the gentlest thing you can carry with you is not knowledge, but a feeling. A feeling that you do not need to fully understand yourself to be at peace. You do not need to fix everything. You do not need to make yourself right. You do not need to move faster. You can slow down, just a little, enough to feel your breath, enough to notice your body softening, enough to realize you are here, and that is enough. You do not need to solve your whole life tonight. You do not need answers to every question. You do not need to know where you are going. You can rest right here, in this moment, in imperfection, in uncertainty, in a state where everything is allowed to be as it is. And as you allow that, a deep calm begins to spread. Not the calm of everything stopping, but the calm of no longer resisting. You do not need to hold on to any thought, any feeling, anything at all. You can let go, very gently, little by little. Thoughts drift, feelings soften, images fade. No need to push them away. Just do not hold them. And when you do not hold, everything finds its own way to pass, like stars quietly moving across the night sky. And you do not need to follow. Just be there, in your body, in your breath, in a quiet space that needs no name. And then you may feel your body growing heavier, your breath slower, your shoulders softening, tension dissolving, not because you try, but because you no longer try. You no longer need to stay awake, no longer need to hold everything in awareness. You can drift, light like a breeze, soft like open space, deep like a quiet night. And in that drifting, sleep arrives, not as a goal, but as something natural. When you have let go enough, softened enough, become still enough, and before you drift deeper into sleep, just one simple thing: you have done enough for today. You do not need to do anything more. Just rest, sleep well,